Hey, welcome back to my channel. My name remains Tina Cash. Yes, today we're going back to the basic. Yes, we just need to go back to the basic. I realized that I've not discussed, or I do not have a dedicated video detailing what the requirements for permanent resident is. So a whole lot of people still have to reach out to me to ask, I understand this is the cost and this is how to complete your express entry or put in for your express entry application, but what are even the checklist? What do I need? Am I eligible to apply for permanent resident? What are the requirements? And a whole lot of questions are along this line. And I was like, hey Tina, let me quickly discuss about this process, what you need, what are the requirements, is it even doable, is it something you can do, do you have the eligibility requirement? I know I have a video on simulating your scores using the comprehensive ranking tool, but hey, how do you even know if you have the basic requirement? This is what I'm going to be doing today. I know I'm not sharing any screen today, I'm not showing anything about your step-by-step points. We're just going to tell you about the guideline, the requirement for eligibility to apply for permanent residence to Canada. Let's get started, but do not forget to like, to share, subscribe, click the notification button so whenever I send out any content, you'll be one of the first to be notified. And should you find this valuable, please share with your connect. Thank you. Do you even know the step-by-step requirements to be eligible for permanent resident application? I thought as much. Let's get started. What are the requirements for permanent resident application for Canada? Anyway, so let's delve into this. For you to start your process of permanent resident application, it is very important you know that the process itself is a point-based process. Yes, and there are lists of requirements that need to be fulfilled for you to meet the eligibility requirement. And each of these requirements have a point associated to it. For instance, it is important for you to know what are the checklists for permanent resident application and what are the points that are associated to it, and how would you be able to meet the requirement in order to be able to apply for your permanent resident application. First, we have various methods to immigrate to Canada as a permanent resident. I'll be dwelling more on the federal skilled worker, and this is the route in which I also came through. And there's also the trade stream as well. I will be discussing on that maybe subsequently, but right now I'm going to be focusing on the federal skilled worker program. And in this federal skilled worker program, there are also different subcategories to it. But let me focus on the provincial nomination program and also the express entry program. I might touch base on every other program subsequently, but these are the popular ones. Hey, why not talk about the popular ones now? Should you want to ever immigrate to Canada as a permanent resident, these are some of the checklists that you will need to fulfill in order for you to even commence your process or meet your eligibility criteria. The checklist for immigrating to Canada as a permanent resident have to do with, number 1, your age, number 2, your test of English language, and also your test of French language. Yes. Number 3, your level of education is very important. Number 4, your work experience, the number of years in which you've worked, and in some skilled occupation. What is the level of education for your partner? And the test requirements, that's number 6, your partner test of English language, very important. We also have siblings points. Should you have siblings in Canada? Hey, that's an advantage. I think these are basically all. And there's also your proof of fund. These are part of the eligibility criteria because you need to also pick how much you're coming to Canada with. Yes. And to break this down further, for age is more advantageous if you are below 30 years of age. Yes, if you're below 30 years of age, you have more likelihood of getting an invitation from the Canadian government to apply for permanent residence, because hey, they need young and vibrant skilled workers in their system to help improve their own system, so to speak. Should it be less than 30? Yes, more advantage for you. However, for those that immigrated when you're above 30, there's still an advantage on that, but you're going to have to complement it in other areas. And the system also does it in such a way that for every age above 30, you're going to lose points. Yes, so you're going to lose 5 points for every age above 30. You can imagine when I was still in the process, people are wishing me a happy birthday. I'm like, oh, 5 points gone. I'm even yet to make up the points to be able to get invitation, and more points have been lost due to birthday. These are some of the factors that will also reduce someone's chances of your permanent resident application. The younger you are, the better it is for you. But I will also discuss areas in which you can complement for that. Now, your level of education. There are also points associated with your level of education. And should you have OND, NC, there's a point to that. If you have a BSc, that's your bachelor's, there's also a point associated to that, which is like the next step, the next stage. For each stage, the points are more than each other's, meaning the point you will get for a diploma is different from the point you will get for a BSc holder. And there is different from a point you will get if you have a master's and if you have a PhD. Guess what? Do you know that Canada recognize HND certificate? That's if you have OND and HND, you have more points than someone that have only BSc, because they see you that you have 2 or more certificates. So your BSc is evaluated as a 2-year program, your HND is evaluated as a 3-year program. So you have more points than someone that just have a BSc. Good news, right? I know. So I've talked about the age, and I've talked about your level of education. Now there's also the test of English language. You know, you have to prove that you know how to speak English. So you have to write the test of English language. You have CELPIP, we have IELTS, and this can be written with either British Council or on IDP, whichever you find comfortable with. You can write them with them, and it's still the same point. Now, for the sake of permanent residence, should you be the principal applicant, it is highly recommended that you have the following points in your test of English language. Now, the test of English language have 4 modules. We have the listening, we have the speaking, we have the reading, we have the writing. And the truth again is, this is always the challenge for a lot of people. I've seen cases where people have to write it like 10 times and a whole lot. And these exams are expensive. They're becoming so pricey now and almost not affordable for an average person. So you will want to do well to study very well. Be well prepared before you book your exam. You don't want to do it more than once. And guess what? This exam is not testing your proficiency on how you speak English, if I want to use this word. Yes, because we all speak English. If I want to look at it from Nigeria, and we all speak English, but hey, this exam will test you. The way the exam is, you can always Google it or check YouTube. You will see different content creators that have actually put in a whole lot of training content out there on different modules of this exam. Some created a niche on specific module, and some does the whole 4 modules together. Great content are out there. You can go over that and prepare for your exam. But like I said earlier, should you be the primary applicant or principal applicant, whichever is more convenient for you to say, please do well to have 8 in listening, 7 in reading, 7 in writing, and 7 in speaking. I did a video on simulation of your scores. That's why this time around I'm just giving the narration on how the process works. There's already a video on how to simulate their scores. You're going to see, I think I tweak some of the information. If I have a BSc, this is what my points will be, considering this age, I will drop a link to the comprehensive ranking tool where you can put in all your details to see the current score you have. And then this will guide you in order to know what to do to improve your scores. You'll have more chances of getting an invitation to apply for your permanent residence. And now I'll go to the next. If you have a partner coming with you, Canada is very funny. If I have the same information, the same age, the same level of education, the same work experience as someone that is single, and I'm assuming I am married, for the singular fact that I put that I'm married, one, and I also put that my spouse will be coming with me to Canada, this will automatically drop down my points. Myself and another person that is single with the same information, the single person will have more points than me. It's almost like, oh, you want to use only yourself to bring your entire generation to Canada. So your point will automatically reduce. Ways to cushion this effect is that your accompanying spouse now need to evaluate their credentials as well. That's their level of education plays a major role in adding more points to you. Then their test of English language as well will also increase your points and cushion the effects of the drop in points due to the fact that you're coming with your accompanying partner to Canada. These are some of the yardsticks. So if I will quickly recap: age, level of education, your partner's level of education and test of English language, and your own test of English language. Another thing is your work experience. The number of years you have work also play an important factor. But the good thing about Canada is that they need maximum of 3 years. So should you have 30 years work experience, 20 years work experience, 15 years work experience, you're going to get the same points as someone that have 3 years work experience. Meaning the maximum points associated to work experience is 3 years. If you have 1 year, try to improve it. If you have 2 years, you're losing points. So try to improve it to have minimum of 3 years work experience in that your particular occupation you intend to come to Canada with. Meaning your work experience is also very important. And now, before you even delve into this, it is important to check Canada's system. What are the occupations they are lacking and they actually need? During my own process, the NOC, which is the National Occupation Classification, you need to go on Google, just type Canada and NOC, that's National Occupation Classification. Then look at the job you currently do and how closely related it is to the numbers, because there are numbers associated with these NOCs. So how closely it has to be at least 70% in relation to what you currently do. This is because I can be invited using any of them, because different provinces can also decide to pick, we don't need more managerial, we need more middle level skilled workers rather than senior level skilled workers. It is also important that if you have such NOC depending on your own area of skill, and that you have the managerial NOC, you have the mid-level NOC or entry-level NOC. But it is very important that whichever NOC you're picking and the organization in which you work to gain those experience, you have a good relationship with those organizations, because you're going to be providing your offer letter, your evidence that you earn salary, either your pay stub or your bank statement, and most importantly, reference letter. And this reference letter also have a format, meaning the organization has to state you were employed for this, and these are your job description, because they want to actually see that the job description in which you're claiming to have is based on the fact that they're inviting people to apply for permanent residence based on this skilled requirement that they feel they need to fill in the gap. You can't just use any NOC that you do not have at least 70% of the skilled required for it. The other things is your proof of fund based on your family size, and the proof of fund, I think I've done video on that already, on cost of immigrating to Canada. So you can watch my video on that. For permanent residents, you will see what the cost is. However, recently they've changed the cost of permanent resident for each adult. Before it was 1,365 for each adult and 210 for your accompanied or your dependent child. But right now it is 1,525 Canadian dollar for each adult and 260 for each child, depending on your family size. Should you have one child, what you will be paying is different from what you would have paid if you have 2, 3, or 4 children, so to speak. In summary, the step-by-step guide for coming to Canada as a permanent resident is just simple. Your age plays a major factor, one. Your level of education is another factor. Your work experience is another factor. Your test of English language is another factor. Your accompanying spouse, level of education, plays a major role as well to increase your points. Test of English language. And do not forget also that for your test of English language, you will even need a minimum of 6 in all modules to be able to create a profile. So you can't just go and sit for any exam and come with any results. So you will even be able to create a profile. And for modules where you're supposed to get, like in writing, if you're supposed to have a 7 and you got a 6.5, you're losing like about 50 points. You don't want to drop any point on the table. The point that is not enough, considering the current draw system they're having in Canada. So I hope you find this video very helpful. This will help you to be able to have an idea of what is required of you should you want to apply to come to Canada as a permanent resident. Do well to share, to like, to subscribe. I'm going to be posting more videos on the process of permanent resident because, hey, it is very achievable. It is not as complex as people think it is. And it is also something you can do yourself. Thank you so much for watching this far. Bye. See you next time.